Take one, Mark.
We really have to focus on these different ways that gut health and brain health are connecting. We're talking about this gut-brain axis. Simple. As simple as that. Hi, Carly. Hi, Maura. Thanks so much for having me. So, Carly, I know that you are an expert in gut health, among many other things. Why don't you give us a quick introduction? I'm a registered dietitian and part of the medical affairs team at Thorne. And with a registered dietitian, we talk about food all the time, right? So it's all about what we're eating, how we're building meals and things like that. But with my background in public health and more on the wellness side, I really like to focus on prevention. And I think the gut is a really great way of being able to incorporate some of this prevention from inside. And so just like with the gut and so many other pieces of our health, there's so many interconnected pieces of the puzzle that I love that we're able to kind of explore those different factors at play and really come up with a way that's comprehensive when we're thinking about health. I like how you use that term interconnected. I think it transitions us really well into our topic today because the gut is so interconnected to everything, right? I think we call that the gut x-axis. Yeah, exactly. And in that gut X, the X is standing for everything. So it could be the gut-brain axis, it could be the gut-muscle connection, even the gut-immune axis too. And so there's so many different ways that gut health is affecting these systems and vice versa because of these bidirectional streets that these systems relate to each other. I have a question for you. Within athletics, we measure things like heart rate, mileage, wattage. There's so much data, but we don't necessarily have any measurements or focus on gut because we think it's just digestion. So what have we gotten wrong about this? Yeah, I think digestion can be a big piece of the puzzle, but it's so much broader than that. With the gut, it's almost this like magical kind of mystical place. So we're still learning about it and there's still so much research that's ongoing, but we are starting to see more and more research come around about the gut and the brain, and particularly for athletes, because of this really highly connected and communicative relationship that they have. And so I think for athletics in particular, if we're just thinking of digestion, we're missing the boat on all of these different pieces of the puzzle that really could be contributing to not only athletic performance, but how athletes, individuals are really being able to show up for themselves in their health and for, their athletic goals as well. I like what you said about the gut-muscle axis. I think a lot of people don't think about that as much. And I'm wondering how else it relates to performance. I'm thinking like brain fog or even performance anxiety. Does that all come back to gut health? It definitely can. I think when, we're talking about this gut-brain axis and how, muscle health and inflammation, that can cause some dysregulation and really different ways that our body is then having to focus on regulating that inflammatory process. So then we're not able to focus as much on maybe muscle recovery or that brain energy. So I think we really have to focus on these different ways that gut health and brain health are connecting and how it can kind of be something that we're looking at further to not only just focus on digestion, but go broader with it too. Gotcha. So if we want that balance of good bacteria, what is the protocol for that? Are we just taking a probiotic or is there more? There's definitely more. We really need to focus on this environment, right? So if we're taking a probiotic, but our gut environment is not in a space to be able to accept those or really be able to embrace the positive bacteria that we're providing, it's not gonna do much with it. It's almost like if we're planting seeds in concrete. It's not gonna grow because it doesn't have that environment that's sustainable for growth. And so I like to kind of think about it in almost this three-step approach where we're first weeding. We're weeding our environment, making sure that it's healthy and optimized. And so with this weeding, we're removing irritants. So things like a high stress lifestyle, that's even something that can be impacting our gut and this ability to bring about balance. So if we're able to kind of moderate our stress, whether that's physical stress, injury, surgery, or if we're moderating mental stress from daily life, work, home life, things like that, and really bring in some balance in our stressed lifestyle, then that can help bring balance into our gut health as well. Makes sense. And then speaking of probiotics, since we're really talking about how we can create this really positive balance, that's when we're seeding. So we got weeding, then we're seeding the environment with those probiotics to populate the good stuff, maybe even something like a Bacillus coagulans. That is a spore-forming bacteria, so it's able to bypass the stomach, get through the stomach acid, and colonize in the gut, where then it can start to provide us some of those benefits. Okay. And then lastly, we're gonna feed the gut. So we really want to focus on those fiber foods. So things like fruits and veggies, they're going to have fiber, they're going to have polyphenols, those antioxidants that not only are great for us, but also for our gut microbiome. So using these prebiotics are fueling the bacteria in our gut to then reap the benefits for us with things like short-chain fatty acids, things like butyrate. That's a really popular one that we've talked so much about in the research. And so by kind of following this three-step approach of weeding, seeding, and feeding, that's helping us to create this really optimal environment for healthy gut. So just to summarize, manage stress, eat a healthy diet, get some probiotics, whether it's through supplementation or food, and then feed it with fiber. Exactly. Simple. As simple as that. Simple, yeah. Next, I want to do some rapid fire myth busting with you. Yeah, let's do it. If I don't have a stomach ache, my gut is totally fine. That's a good one. I think for this, I'll say false, because the gut is often silent unless you're having major digestion issues or, really noticing some major issues or symptoms of gut dysbiosis or things like that. Maybe your digestion isn't at its optimal level, but it's not noticeable to you. The second myth, coming back to our discussion of those probiotics, should we take one every day for the rest of our lives for good gut health? I would say this one's a little more nuanced because, we're gonna get probiotics likely from some foods. So if we're not taking a supplement, it's usually okay. But if we are really focused on really optimizing our gut health, probiotics can be a great place to not just start, but continue, as long as we're focused on that weeding, seeding, and feeding, right? So getting back to that 3 pillars. Because with probiotics, there's so many more strains that are now being really heavily researched. So we can kind of target particular strains with particular benefits that we're looking for at the gut level, but also beyond. So I think with probiotics, we also can even think about it's bringing more diversity. So if we're able to rotate strains, that can be another way to introduce more of that diversity in the gut microbiome to really maintain all of these, positive balances in the gut, but also focus on those key benefit areas that is going to be personalization for everybody. Third and final myth I want to go over with you. We know that fiber causes bloating. Should we avoid fiber to avoid that bloating? I feel like all these myths are nuanced, but that's the beauty of nutrition and the fact that we get to talk about this right here, right? So with fiber, there are some types that can cause some bloating, and certain people, they may not be accustomed to that much fiber. Again, honing back to that typical American diet where we're not getting enough fruits, veggies, whole grains. But fiber is really, really beneficial, not only for us, but also for our gut bacteria, because the fiber, like we talked about with prebiotics, some of that fiber is what they're digesting. And so that's the fuel, the food for those probiotics, where if we're able to provide them this food that they need, then they can thrive and really give us those benefits. With fiber though, I know we said this fiber maxing idea is really popular right now, this trend, it's adding fiber to the max, basically. But for the majority of people who aren't getting enough fiber on a daily basis through the diet, that is what's causing some of that bloating. The extra fiber maxing, where we're front loading our diet with fiber supplements, fiber foods, that can cause a lot of discomfort in the GI tract because our body's not used to it. So with fiber, we always say start low and slow. Don't add a ton of supplements into your diet at one time. Don't alter your diet majorly at one time. Really slowly incorporate different fiber foods, and then you can kind of use some supplements to add additional fiber there to kind of meet those daily recommended goals. But with fiber, since it's something that the gut bacteria are consuming, they're fermenting it, it can cause a little bit of that bloating. So a little bit is okay. I would say if it gets to the point where you're having that discomfort, then maybe it's something to kind of check in on of, is this too much fiber for me right now? And then slowly build tolerance as you build that fiber intake. This has been a great conversation today, and I want to wrap it up and tie a nice little bow on it. So if there was one thing you would tell everyone to do tomorrow for better gut health, what would it be? For a final takeaway, I'd say eat the rainbow. Bring in all the variety, have all those bright colors in your fruits and veggies, not only to get the fiber, the antioxidants and polyphenols, but also to have a little more fun with our food. Awesome. Eat the rainbow. I love it. Thanks for coming in today, Carly. It was great having you. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been so fun. For more articles, podcasts, and videos just like this, visit thorne.com.